in your life, you burn what you eat. If you're eating all carbs, then you're burning carbs, and you can never lose fat. But if you eat fat and teach your body how to be a fat burner by having to have to metabolize fat, then you eventually become a fat burner. And then if you eat fat, you stay fuller longer. So whole milk on the kefir. So basically, I tried to time this perfectly so that this would be mature for when I was going to do my little presentation. And it's about there. Kefir is made with what are called kefir grains. And they're not really grains like wheat, but they look more like cottage cheese. And what you do is you put the...
Where do you get your grains, Chris?
Well, you know, the grains never die. The grains come from the Caucasus region of Afghanistan. And so I got my grains from a friend. And the grains grow with each batch of kefir you make. So, and as they continue to grow, the more grains you have, the quicker it ferments, basically. So when I get too many grains, I basically feed them to the dogs, put them in my smoothie, or give them to a friend, because I eat the grains. The grains are what are called a SCOBY. SCOBY meaning symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. And, you know, again, bacteria, I don't want any bacteria. Bacteria is what causes disease. Well, no, not really. Bacteria does cause disease, but that's bad bacteria. In your gut, 70% of your immune system's in your gut, and you have 3 to 5 pounds of bacteria lining your gut. And the trick is to have about 85% good bacteria, 15% bad. So the more good bacteria that you have, the stronger your immune system, the better you're able to fight off disease. And so the kefir grains, basically, I got from a friend a couple years ago, and they never die as long as you feed them.
But for those of us who don't have friends with kefir grains, maybe how about the box that you'd get in the store? How do you feel about that?
Oh, the commercial kefir?
Yeah, like they're just the box you can buy of kefir grains.
No, the grains.
The grains. No, the grains that you buy in the box that you can start brewing.
Like the powder or the real actual, like there's powdered kefir grains. There's called Yo Gourmet Kefir Starter. It's a powder. It can make 1 or 2 batches of kefir and then done. But if you get some kefir grains, they'll last forever. So, or else we talked a little bit about last week, culturesforhealth.com. You get kefir grains from there. Kefir grains are all pretty much similar, and they have a diverse array of bacteria. The interesting thing is, we buy probiotics, pills to help nourish our gut, 5 billion, 10 billion. 1 cc of kefir, 1 cc, has about 10 billion colony-forming units of bacteria. So 1 teaspoon has about 50 billion colonies. So imagine like drinking a quart a day of bacteria that has. So kefir is actually a cheaper way to do probiotics rather than spending $50 buying a bottle of 20 or 30 probiotics.
And there was a famous guy who drank kefir every day of his life until he died, Eli Metchnikoff.
Yeah.
Won the Nobel Prize back in the 1800s, and I think it was Bulgaria. He figured out that certain blood cells, we call them white blood cells, engulf pathogens, viruses, bacteria, to kill them and then teach our immune system to get right from wrong. And during his entire life, he figured out that Bulgarians were living longer, and he made the assumption that it was because they were drinking what he called spoiled milk.
Yeah.
And he won the Nobel Prize for this learning of the macrophages, and then he went on to be the first champion of what we call now kefir probiotics.
So kefir, it's pretty much fermented. It's done. Sometimes it separates into curds and whey, liquid, and then all the curds. And basically, just an immersion blender, $12. I've had this 5 years, basically. I just kind of mix it all up. And it's basically a drinkable yogurt. And you can flavor it with different things. You can blend it up in a blender, put some fruit in it, do whatever you want. I often mix it with a little bit of Greek God's honey yogurt because I like just the way it tastes that way. So basically, you mix it up quickly, easily, and then you pour it through a strainer. And that separates the kefir from the grains. And, of course, I forgot my spatula that I usually... And then you take a spatula and kind of run it through so that the kefir separates well from the milk itself. And again, this really takes all about 5 minutes a day. Simple thing to do. And so I leave it on you leave it on your counter. I put a little coffee filter on top of it because, flies and bugs like fermented foods. So I throw a little coffee filter over it and then just put the ring from the mason jar. And basically, another point I wanted to share with you, there's no way you can be a foodie without using mason jars. So you better learn to like mason jars if you're thinking about becoming a foodie. So anyways, you just kind of you can see it dripping through there. These are the kefir grains here. Oh, that's not working. So,
We lost our picture.
so what I have now in here is kefir. Now I have the kefir grains.
So you let it sit on the counter for 24 hours
Well,
or so,
in all honesty,
and let it grow.
In all honesty, with the volume of kefir grains I have, I took this out this morning. So
Okay.
it depends on the volume of kefir grains you have, but 24 hours, less in the summertime,
Yeah.
more in the wintertime.
And then when it's done, you put it in the refrigerator.
When it's done, when it's done, I pour it all in this jar, and I keep this in the fridge. You don't really necessarily want to drink warm kefir. I don't, at least.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone can hear this.
oh, perfect. Oh, no. Just tell. Yeah.
So for those who can see right now, my Kerrygold grass-fed lovely butter is now slightly boiled. The key with butter is, just like all fats, don't heat them too hot, or you start to make them turn into something we don't like. And basically, in the world of inflammation, it's. I'm not Italian, I'm Polish, but I married an Italian. So my hands started going when I got married. They never used to go before. No. So what's happening here is that the slow bubble process is occurring. So it's a slow boil. Right. I started it on about medium high, and now I'm down to low. And what I want to get to is where it just percolates like this for a while. And the key is, if you start to see any hint of orange, you're starting to go too hot. And so what's happening right now is that heat is precipitating out the casein. The casein protein is now sticking to each other, and they're going to turn into little mini grains. And we're going to eventually take out what will be left over as well. All right, you're back.
Yeah.
So those are my kefir grains. I pour them through the filter, and actually it's better to use plastic. Kefir doesn't necessarily like metal, but it's not going to kill them. So just pour them through a strainer. The kefir grains come out, and you can see I have like old remnants of kefir in this jar. I just use it over and over, and then just fill it back up with some just milk. Now, if you use the Yo Gourmet kefir starter, which is a powdered starter, you actually have to scald your milk to kill any bacteria, so that the Yo Gourmet kefir starter will work. With kefir grains, you don't got to do anything with the milk except pour it in, 1 or 2 little turns, mix it up.
So see the yellow foam that's happening?
Their heads are going.
We're going to keep doing this. The yellow foam that's right there, that's some of the protein precipitating out. And then underneath, in the bottom, there's another layer of protein precipitating out. So it comes in 2 spots.
So I throw this in the fridge overnight, basically, and I take it out each morning and set it on the counter. And by 8 or 9 at night, I have my kefir. So that's one of my bedtime rituals, I guess. I strain my kefir off, pour it into my little glass jar here, and then the following morning I'll take it back out again. So it just ferments, and it's, again, they call it the champagne of milk. And it does taste a little bit like sour milk. That's why it's better to have it cold. But if you put a little bit of yogurt then in the kefir, or any fruits that you may like, you could even maybe use honey if you want. But I'll just, again, I said, last week I told you commercial yogurt's basically garbage.
Sugar.
Sugar, yeah. But still, you find ways to make this stuff work. I mean, I could probably just eat the straight-up kefir, but if I want my family to have a little bit or at least try it, it's got to be semi-palatable. But they call kefir the champagne of milk because it does have a little bit of a tang to it, and that tang gets more tangy the longer you let it sit, basically. So that's pretty much how you make kefir. It's quite easy. It's a matter of pouring milk in a bottle.
So you're mixing all that in, and then you portion it out for your family like that.
Well, I mix it in there. Once again, I use my little handy dandy immersion blender. They make much nicer ones now, but and I just mix it up to mix the yogurt in. To mix the yogurt in with the. I do pretty well without making a mess of myself when I do this too. So I stir it all in, again, that's Greek God's honey yogurt. You can use any yogurt you want. Mix it all in. And
Polish God's honey yogurt's a little better.
Polish God's, yeah. And then I just pour it in my, and did you hear that little burp there when I pulled the lid off? That's fermentation. Fermentation creates gas. That's why you don't put the full lid on the kefir container or on the kombucha
All right,
container.
I'm cutting you off.
Cut me off.
So
So there you go. That's kefir done.
If you look over here, I'm still at about the same temperature, but what's happening now is it's just starting to crackle. It's not violently bubbling anymore, and it's slowing down. And when it starts to slow down like that, when it gets to just a little popcorn crackle, that's when you're almost finished. And so that's when you know you've precipitated out most of the goodies.
Okay.
So you can even hear it now.
Yeah.
It's intermittent. I mean, I wish you all could come up.
And it's at this point when I would take the spoon and you can actually start skimming off the top layer of foam. It looks like foam. Yeah. The casein actually rises to the top and the bottom. And after you skim off the top,
Casein, C-A-S-E-I-N. You know, your nursery rhyme, don't eat your curds and whey, or eat your curds and whey, whatever. I think it was, I heard don't eat. They all said eat. Curds is the casein, whey is what's left over.
Yeah.
Whey is much less irritating. That's why a lot of the sports bodybuilding powders are made of whey protein.
so the top foam, you skim it off, put it in a jar, and then what you'll notice within 5 or 10 minutes, this will go completely translucent. And you actually can look down at the bottom in about 10 minutes, and you'll see there's little brown particles. That's more of the casein that's just, and it sticks to the bottom of the pan. And that's when you know you're ready, once it turns to sort of a golden color, to strain it.
And the amazing thing about ghee is something called butyrate. And it's a fatty acid, what's called a short-chain fatty acid, which is a direct food source to your gut cells. Your gut cells are, line, if you take your intestines and stretch them out, they'll cover an entire doubles tennis court. Just you. I mean, that's how much absorptive surface area there is. And those cells turn over roughly every 3 days. And they need certain things to be happy and heal. And one of them is butyrate. And there's a great source of these short-chain fatty acids in ghee.
Okay. Can I start my bone broth?
One more thing about
I'm
on the
sorry.
kefir.
Yeah, go ahead.
And you might be thinking, geez, he's going to let that milk sit on the counter. It's going to go rotten. It's already rotten. Nice, fermented food was how they preserved food in the past so that they could still consume it. So, I'm going to drink all this. I'm not going to go home, geez, that got warm. I hope it's not contaminated with some bad bacteria. It's going to make me sick. It's already fermented. So it is always, I say rotten jokingly. So, like the milk I have sitting back here is left over, that's probably going to be awful. That doesn't have a culture to ferment.
How much do you drink a day of that?
I probably drink about a quart a day. That's about 5 to 7 trillion colony-forming units of bacteria.
Wow.
I added it up because I'm a geek with the calculator.
Yeah.
But, 5 to 7 trillion. And so I drink a cup in the morning with my breakfast. I drink it with my dinner because fermented food helps you digest your food. Mm-hmm. The bacteria in there are hungry too, and so they'll eat and help digest the food that you're also consuming. So I drink probably...
For point of reference, what doses are they now using for Crohn's disease?
Of probiotics? I really don't even know.
1 to 3 trillion.
1 to 3 trillion.
Most people are getting 5 billion in their little probiotic they buy at the store.
Yeah.
You might as well be peeing in the wind. It's not going to help you much. I mean, the bottom line truly is you need a much higher volume of probiotic to do the job that needs to be done.
So 5 to 7 trillion if you're drinking it's quite a bit. A lot cheaper.
That's a lot. Yeah. A lot cheaper, yeah. Okay. Can I talk about bone broth now?
Almost.